I'd like to welcome everyone to this Global Perspectives on Digital and Smart Agriculture seminar series. This is a joint effort between National Taiwan University Center for Intelligent Agriculture and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign Center for Digital Agriculture. And we're using this to bring our teams and groups around the world together to learn more about different topics. And we will host these 4 times this spring. And welcome everyone.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to join this exciting seminar hosted by CDA of UIUC and CIA of NTU. I know it's very early here, so I'm so glad that all of you, especially the students in NTU, are here on time. And also I want to thank Dr. Shi-Fang Chen and Dr. Dinh Guanzhong for helping all of this to happen. And also, I want to thank all the audience from online, and I believe we will make a very successful seminar today. Thank you.
Yeah, so Dr. Reed, thank you very much for everything, for setting up the, especially setting up the Zoom account for us. Okay, so let's start today's seminar. This is seminar 1. The topic is about the circular bioeconomy in agriculture. So we are going to have the 4 seminar. So today is the first one. So next week, Thursday, we are going to have the second one. And we are going to have the 3rd on April 9, United States, and after April 10th in Taiwan. And the last one is the end of the April and early of the May. So the 4 topics we are going to cover, including today's circular bioeconomy in agriculture, and the next one is controlled environment agriculture. And we are going to have the smart agriculture in animals and in crops for the last 2. Okay, so each time we will have 4 speakers, 2 from UIUC and 2 from NTU. And each speaker will have like 15 to 20 minutes to have their presentation. And we will have like 5 to 10 minutes for discussion. So today we are going to have Professor Pan. And this is from our brother department in NTU. And we also have the Dr. Zhang from the UIUC and Dr. Ruan from the Minnesota. Okay, so let's start the first speaker. So Dr. Pan is from the Department of Bioenvironmental Systems Engineering. So he is going to talk about the circular bioeconomy for net zero transition.
Good evening.
Yes.
Well, it's my great honor to be here. And dear Professor Huang, Chairman, and Professor Chen, Professor Dinh, and all friends here in Taiwan. As Professor Huang mentioned, we are brother department. And recently in College of Bioresources and Agriculture in NTU, we also have a new research center called Agricultural Net Zero Technology and Management Innovation Research Center. And if you see the name of the research center, you can understand the goal and objective of our research center. And actually, one of the research theme in our research center is trying to use the concept of circular bioeconomy to achieve net zero in agricultural sector. So I'm really happy and glad to be here to share with you my personal research project but I will also give you some more broader idea about the research center at the first beginning. And you can call me Sean, by the way. This is the research center I mentioned in NTU. We are almost 2 years old. So we established in 2023. And right now we have 7 groups under this research center, from the forest, animal, plant science, microbiology, environmental monitoring, and even the economics, especially for the carbon trading. So this is the structure of the research center right now. Under each research center, actually, we have several professors responsible for the project and also international collaboration under each specific topic. And among the group, we also have several different projects, which is a more cross-discipline, working on net zero in agriculture. So that is, for me, it is very challenging, because we spend a lot of time communicating to each other and understand the research from other disciplines and trying to grab some project work together. But still, I think we are good, and we are on the right direction, especially for the government in Taiwan. And I think agricultural net zero is very challenging, because agriculture provides food. And if you want to provide food, you need fertilizer, you need nutrient. And at the same time, you cannot avoid to generate greenhouse gas emission, as well as the biomass residue. So I think the topic or the direction in this year, we start to narrow down to a certain few research topic, and one of them is circular bioeconomy. So this is an introduction of the research center. And I personally, from Department of Bioenvironmental System Engineering, we used to be agricultural engineering. So we also participate in the ASABE from time to time. And we have about 20 full-time faculty in our department. So basically, this is the status of our department. This is my lab in NTU, trying to develop something we call green. And I graduated from environmental engineering, and especially working on CO2 capture and utilization when I was a PhD student. So when I joined NTU about 5 years ago, I established this lab we call Green Technology Lab. And we shift our target to agriculture. And as I mentioned, agriculture will also generate greenhouse gas, but not CO2. Mainly methane and nitrous oxide, but still very challenging for me. But the goal or the concept behind our lab is trying to develop some technology, which is more like we try to apply some available technology to solve the issue in agriculture, especially the wastewater or biomass waste from agriculture. And at the same time, we hope by deploying our technology, we can contribute to the reduction of greenhouse gas from agriculture, or even contribute to other sectors. So this is the goal of our lab. And we have 4 research teams right now. And as you see in the slides, today I will focus on the wastewater use by using something we call precision separation. Basically, it is based on membrane or adsorption or even electrochemical separation. So this is the first thing we're working right now in our lab. We also have several other research things, including biomass utilization. I think Professor Dinh later will give you more progress on this one. So I didn't report the progress we have in this seminar, but still we also have some students working on biomass, trying to generate bioenergy, biogas or syngas by using different technology. And another thing in my lab is trying to help the net zero goal. So one example is we produce biogas from anaerobic digestion. We have biogas and how we can purify the biogas to be a highly concentrated methane, for example, which can be used in natural gas grid. So this is one example. We also working on technology trying to target CO2 issue or even the carbon sink in agriculture. So this is research thing number 3. And number 4, irrigation water quality. Our department is especially focused on the water and soil quality in environment. And irrigation water is very important for agriculture, especially paddy field. And a few capacity my lab is trying to working on the change because of the climate change. The effect of the climate change on, for example, irrigation water quality or watershed condition. Or another perspective is in Taiwan, we have a very small land area. So you can see a lot of scenarios nearby your farmland, you can see industry. And somehow industry will discharge the wastewater illegally and wastewater contain heavy metal. So another important domain is we try to identify which is the hotspot for the illegal discharge of wastewater from industry, which can impact the food security and also safety. So this is number 4. Basically, we working on the environment, okay, in agriculture. And today I would like to share with you about the wastewater reviews. We in the past 5 years we try to design very different mechanism and trying to apply that for wastewater reviews. And one of the mechanism is electrochemistry. And electrochemistry is trying to use the electricity to drive the reaction or separation. And you can imagine in the future, green energy will be the major energy source. So the question in the future, I imagine, will be how you can drive the current process, which is driven by thermal, for example, or pressure. But in the future, you need to drive this reaction or separation processes in using electricity. So this is also something very important. If you see the report from the International Energy Agency, IEA, they also point out the importance of if we're trying to use electricity or something we call electrification, the contribution of that on global greenhouse gas reduction. So I think it is one key research direction in my lab right now, especially for the wastewater use. The reason for that is the valuable resources in wastewater stream, typically it is in ppm level, which means it is not really highly concentrated. And electrochemical process is actually a very good technology. You can just pull out something you want from the whole waste stream, which is more energy efficient, right? You can imagine that. Compared to if you use in pressures like reverse osmosis, you try to push the water across the membrane. So basically, you leave the contaminant or something we want behind the membrane. So different mechanism. But people will question electrochemistry, you use electricity. So how about the energy consumption? So one important goal or objective is we need to balance energy consumption and the product we want. So if you're trying to produce clean water, then water productivity is very important. You need to balance with the process energy consumption. So this is the design criteria, one of the design criteria in our lab. And in addition to the performance of the technology, we also have several students working on the materials. We try to customize different type of materials because of the type of wastewater. So depending on the property of the wastewater and also the type of the product we want, we need to design suitable materials or process for that treatment. So this is basically the idea we have. And in the past, we try to design something for wastewater from pig industry. And in Taiwan, we have a lot of pig, okay, especially in southern Taiwan, and produce a lot of wastewater every day. So, well, one of our mission is trying to solve the wastewater in pig industry, because right now the wastewater treatment in pig industry is go for anaerobic process. It is not real anaerobic digestion, but we use anaerobic process to remove the nutrient in the wastewater. But we didn't collect the methane or nitrous oxide from process. But anyway, this is the current wastewater process in pig industry, which means you can generate greenhouse gas emission during the wastewater treatment. And our target is trying to solve this issue, as well as we try to recover nutrient, including nitrogen, including phosphorus, and even if you go for anaerobic process, if we can recover the organic acid out of the digestion. So we designed something like this one. We call that as a cascading separation. So one example for that is if you have a pig wastewater, the first step is we using adsorption to separate the humic acid or formic acid from the wastewater at the first stage. These are organic molecular, which means the molecular size are bigger than the nutrient ions. So after we removing, concentrating the organics, then we will go to a series of electrochemical process. And one of that is ED, electrodialysis. And using ED, we can separate nutrients, for example, nitrogen, phosphorus, out of the wastewater stream. Or we can also use another technology we call EDI, electrodeionization, to separate organic acid. So eventually, by a series of processes, you can get something more clean, right? It is more like a clean water. So we just need to go for several further treatment, then probably you can get something we call clean water. So depending on the customer. But from the process we see in these slides, the target is we try to produce the product. For example, organic fertilizer. Humic acid actually can be used as organic fertilizer. And formic acid, you can use that as a fertilizer as well. And in addition to fertilizer, you can use that as chemicals in pharmaceutical industry, a lot of application. And nutrient, you know nutrient, right? It is a kind of fertilizer. So we target the purity of the product instead of the clean water in the process we designed before. So a few slides quickly showing some progress we have. First slide is showing the organic molecular recovery from the piggery wastewater. And as I mentioned, we use a series of unit processes trying to separate humic acid and also formic acid by pH adjustment or adsorption using different resin. And the purity is quite good. For example, humin, we can get 100%, and humic acid also 100%, formic acid about 80 to 90%. So far, we are also trying to use this process to the local pig farm. We're trying to have a small scale kind of demonstration and showing the benefit to the local pig farm, how this process can be used. And another process we have, just like I mentioned, electrodialysis or ED, we can do nutrient separation using ED. And one very interesting result we have is we can adjust the electric field and we can achieve nitrogen and phosphorus selective recovery. Okay, selective. So at the low voltage, you can have a high removal efficiency or high recovery efficiency for nitrogen. And once you remove all of the nitrogen from the wastewater, then you can increase your electric field, that you can recover phosphate afterwards. So this is very interesting. We found we can selectively recover N and P through the adjustment of operation. So this is one thing we get before. And recently, we also trying to get involved in a new technology, which is shockwave electrodialysis or shock ED. And this technology was developed by MIT. The concept of that is we try to reduce the number of membrane we use in conventional ED process, because membrane, somehow you will face the fouling issue. So if you can reduce the number of the membrane you use in ED, then you can increase the energy efficiency and also avoid the fouling issue, which is very good. And shockwave ED is one of the concepts you can apply. So basically, we don't use anion exchange membrane. We just use cation exchange membrane in ED process. But you need to incorporate charged materials to help separation. So this is basically the principle behind shockwave ED. And you can use this process for salt recovery or organic acid recovery. And we just working on this technology just a half year. And actually, this is very difficult if you want to get a stable operation. So still, we are trying to understand how we can have a better operation on shock ED. But before, in the past half year, we at the same time, we developed the modeling for predicting the performance of shock ED. If we're using that for salt, or if we're using for organic acid, what will be the performance looking like? So we're using console to simulate the performance of shock ED. And at the same time, we try to improve our design and operation of shock ED. And we also have EDI, electrodeionization. EDI have conductive materials in ED. So that is the biggest difference. And conventional EDI, you use ion exchange resin to facilitate the ion transfer. And in our lab, we try to use fixed ion exchange materials to improve the efficiency. And also we formulate different resin depending on what product we want, and also the concentration of the product in the wastewater. So we design different materials. And one simple concept for that is wastewater in, basically you can get three products. One is acid, one is alkaline chemicals, and another one is something we call clean water. So you can use these three different products in many, many different locations. Okay? So one example is we have PET washing industry in Taiwan. They're using chemicals for washing and produce wastewater. And right now they're using pressure-driven membrane process to treat wastewater. And we try to incorporate this new technology in their current process. And we can generate chemicals which can be used back into their original process to wash the PET bottles. So I think this is a very important process, especially for industry, because we estimate the cost for the industry every day can reduce by 90% because they purchase a lot of chemicals every day, and also wastewater treatment fee. So by doing so, you can avoid a lot of fee for industry. And this is the detail for the materials. I think because of the time, I will just skip the detail. The concept for that is we try to formulate different type of materials which can be used for different purpose by different ratios of anion exchange resin, cation, and also binders. We need binders and also peroxygens. And we try to design different formula and evaluate the performance for that. And one target is fermentation growth using biomass, right? and anaerobic fermentation broth, you can produce organic acid. And succinic acid is one example for that, very highly valuable product. And we try to use the materials we mentioned before in previous slides, and to increase the performance of succinic acid recovery from the fermentation broth. And we also use the same materials for wastewater in pig industry, but recover ions, so different targets. So this is something we have in the past. And the one last slide today, we also try to working on something I feel very fancy, because in the past, when you treat wastewater, you will think we need to input more chemicals or energy. But somehow we realize we can utilize the energy stored in the wastewater. At the same time, you can produce energy. Also, you can treat the wastewater somehow. So this is something we call energy extracting water technology. For example, pH utilization, you will generate a lot of heat because of the reaction. But how you can utilize the heat to drive separation, this is the concept behind this technology. Or battery, this is looking like a battery, right? Because battery produce energy. So we also design different configuration of electrochemical separation, but at the same time, you can produce energy. So brine is actually store a lot of chemical energy inside. So if you can treat brine and utilize the chemical energy in the brine for separation, then that is something we are working right now. But still, also a few months, not many progress to share. And I hope I can share more information in the future. Thank you so much again for inviting. And this is my lab and also some sponsors for my lab. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks very much for Professor Pan's speech. And so first of all, we would like to have some comments or questions from online audience. Anyone?
Yeah. Okay, I have a question.
Sure,
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yes.
Professor Zhang, yes.
This is Yuanhui Zhang from University of Illinois. Dr. Pan, that when you use the shock or technologies, what's the energy recovery at this point you can achieve? The one that you get from MIT, yes. Is there any improvement of the energy efficiencies compared with the existing electrolysis technologies?
Thank you, Professor Zhang. Actually, that was one question I gave to my student a few days ago. And
Okay.
yeah, we try to realize the energy efficiency for the shockwave ED right now. And as I mentioned, because we avoid the use of anion exchange membrane, so we expect the energy consumption could be lower. But from the aspect of energy efficiency, actually, I don't know, to be honest. We need to check, compared to the conventional ED, which one will be more close to the thermodynamic limit. And actually, we are working right now.
Okay.
So I would like to ask a question. We're seeing more and more work on thinking about circular bioeconomy and creating new products from things that we used to consider waste and trying to reduce waste. Are you performing any type of analysis of the benefits of circularity, or how we're transforming the system that can be used to communicate to the public about the importance of these technologies.
Yes. Typically, when we develop technology, at the same time, we will run cost analysis. But actually, that is very preliminary because this is lab scale. And also life cycle assessment, we will also perform life cycle assessment to compare the conventional technology. And I just use this slide as an example because peak wastewater produce a lot of greenhouse gas during the wastewater treatment and sludge. So which means cost and also environmental impact. So when we design this process, we have some performance like removal efficiency and what is the residue behind we have. And we use this real data, calculate the cost which can be reduced compared to their current process. For example, in this process, the cost can be reduced by 30% compared to the current, they're using, we call 3-step wastewater treatment. But the environmental benefit will be much higher. But typically, farmer doesn't care about the environmental benefit; they care about the cost. Right? At this, the cost, according to our lab scale experiment, we consider the materials we use, and also we consider the separation, the further concentration process. Okay, and also the wastewater we have after this process. We consider also the electricity we use to drive the wastewater moving compared to the current process in the current peak farm. So 30% reduce. So we provide this data to the local industry. They will be very interested. So like I mentioned, we are trying to have a small scale test on site in Taiwan, and we try to use this technology to solve their real issue, but step by step. And I think the process right now we are designing for a bigger scale. Probably it will be locally in Pingdong County, Taiwan, probably in half year. And once we have equipment, and we will run a few experiments to see the result is looking like what we expect or not. So yes, we at the same time we perform cost and also life cycle environmental impact assessment based on the lab scale experiment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was one question in the chat from Liam Reynolds. Liam, I don't know if you want to unmute or you would prefer that I read it. If you unmute, I'll let you do it, but otherwise I'll read it in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I can say hello. Thank you for your presentation. I thought it was very interesting. I'm curious to what other types of wastewater you have worked on treating besides piggery waste. I'm working on a similar issue here with trying to make our wastewater suitable for hydroponic crop production.
Thank you. That is the perfect topic. And actually, the technology can be used for hydroponic wastewater recycle, especially for nutrient extraction. Right now in my lab, we have peak wastewater, and we have a few projects on PET plastic wastewater. Actually, in Taiwan, we also have hot spring wastewater. We also have a few students working on hot spring wastewater, because in Taiwan, the hot spring, we didn't treat very well and discharge to river somehow. And the downstream of the watershed is farmland. So it will impact the soil quality of the farmland. So we also try to dealing with hot spring wastewater in Taiwan. But I think in principle, if wastewater contain salt or ions, which can be moved by electric field, then we can treat by this technology.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if no more questions from online audience, we have a lot of questions from the local audience, and they are more curious about your shockwave ED. So can you have just a quick response to this of all of these questions?
The shockwave ED, you need a charge materials, especially negative charge on the surface. So, for example, in MIT group, they use the silica, borosilica glasses, okay, and that is negatively charged on the surface. So you can imagine if you have a negative charge materials in blue color, right, highlighted blue color, then positive charge ion will tend to move in other direction, right? So if you have negative charge materials, so positive charge ion will be here. So eventually you can see you don't have ion in this channel, but all ions will be concentrated on this channel. But in the past, you need a membrane in the middle, right? Anion exchange membrane. But because of the materials, it can facilitate the ion movement, kind of ion movement to here. And this is cation, so anion cannot pass. So it will be concentrated here. So eventually you can see a black splitter on the top. So you can have two streams. One stream is very highly concentrated. Another one is relatively clear. And according to our operation right now, in case of salt salinity, 90% removal, separation 90%. So quite amazing, but very unstable. We are trying to figure out why it is not stable. Stable means today 90%, tomorrow 85%, the day after tomorrow 80%. Different people, different operation, it will not very stable right now. We guess there are some short flow, shortcut, right? Like bypass, right? Because the materials and membrane is not 100% stick on each other. So we guess probably that is the issue.
Yeah, so thank you very much for Professor Pan's speech. I think it's time for us to move to the next speaker. So the next speaker will be the Professor Zhang from UIUC. So when I do the preparation, I've learned that Dr. Zhang is an expert for the indoor air quality, and he has a lot of research about the effect of indoor air quality and for occupant heating, ventilation, and the air conditioning control. His team has developed and continued research on the filterless air cleaning, and also the 3D velocity measurement method called BPTV for a long time. So this is also my personal research interest for this part, and we currently have a paper under review using the UV air cleaning system, and also we verify the effect by to have the CFU and to verify everything. So back to today's topic, Professor Zhang combines the waste treatment, water cleaning, and the carbon dioxide sequestration and the biofuel conversion into one process. And he converted bio-waste, including animal and human waste, food processing waste, and the algae into crude oil using thermochemical conversion. So,
Yeah. Hello, can you allow me to share?
Yes, go ahead and share.
yes.
Um,
So let's welcome Professor Zhang's speech.
yes, just allow me to share the.
Yes, you can share now. All you have to do is
I clicked the share, but somehow it's not on my
Yeah, we don't see it either. So,
one.
okay, here you go. Now it's multiple participants can share at a time. Try it again.
Okay. So share again. Somehow it will not share.
Hmm.
Click the share.
And the Taiwan side unshare.
我们就是还没有那个一定，我们是不是还没有解除我们的 share？
结束了。
结束了吗？
Yeah.
On the screen, I still see the name of Chien-Fang on my screen.
Yeah, we see
And
your
when
face.
Yeah, I couldn't get the.
再分享一次那边第二个分享下来，
原本的那个投影片有没有取消分享？
原本因为我取消了。
So Yuanhui, I can share my screen, so you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, let's see. Let me try again. Yeah, now it's show up. Okay,
Here we go.
can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So just showed up on my. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Good. Good morning in Taiwan and evening in American. Let me just do the briefly reintroduce that. Thank you for the introduction, but my research or my presentation might be disappoint you because it's not air quality, neither the biochemical treatment. So this is the topic is from food waste to sustainable aviation fuels. This is to introduce a circularity pathway through the hydrothermal liquefaction. Hydrothermal liquefaction is a part of the thermochemical conversion. So I'm going to introduce one particular feedstocks, but it's also extended to the general circularity through these hydrothermal liquefaction pathways. Now, the key word over here is the food waste, or in general, bio waste to jet fuel. So this gives you a quick overview of the jet fuels. Even though now the macro environment changed somehow, but achieve the sustainable aviation fuels and achieve zero carbon emissions in aviation industry is still a long-term goal. Right now, from the US government point of view, the self-grant challenge presented by DOE, FAA, and the USDA and EPAs, etc. And you can see that from this diagram, from the 225, now we are sitting right here. You can see that with the different scenarios, and we are trying to achieve, and these goals might be changed, but let me still speak on with the language of the previous administration in US, that by 2050, that US want to replace the fossil fuel in aviation industry completely by sustainable aviation fuel, like these green areas. Then from an industry point of view, this is from the Boyens presentations. About the 27%, 27% also comes from the biomass. So now we are interested in the wet biomass. So first, what about the renewable resources through the wet biomass contributed to the sustainable fuel sector? So this diagram shows of all those sustainable fuels, the collectible biomass contributes a substantial, see anywhere between the 50 to 70 billion Gs of equivalent fuel. And this opens a whole new world of the technology development, biochemical or from such as fermentation or chemical reforming or thermochemical, like pyrolysis, gasifications, hydrothermal liquefactions, etc. So all those can use the biomass. In particular, the wet biomass constitutes a large fraction in the sustainable biomass supply. So I'm going to use this food waste as an example to demonstrate the research in my group through past almost 2 decades, how we collect this biomass and treat it, and all the way to the jet fuels. So the typical food waste is from a restaurant, like on the top, and also the more easily collectible food waste is the food processing plant waste, which is readily available, it's already concentrated, and already pre-treated in terms of homogeneous status. This is a much easier, better feedstocks to deal with. Now, I'm focused on my research, my group's research, primarily on the hydrothermal liquefaction. It's a subset of the thermochemical conversion. So the macro theory today is all the fossil fuels on Earth comes from some kind of hydrothermal liquefaction. Okay, in theory, or the biogenic theory, that's petroleum crude oils from algae and coal from wood and peats, and the natural gas from either of them, but under higher temperatures and pressures, or sort of through the hydrothermal liquefactions through the time of billion years. So that is the Professor Zhang's study. His whole life dedicated to the origin of the fossil fuels. He visited more than 80 countries, digged out more than 150 geological samples, and proved that this is the macro theory. Now, then why is HTO? There's also some other advantages on this. And right now, in the past 7 or 8 years, this has been turned into a fairly popular topics. In Britain, the decision will likely happen before next couple of years in terms of regulating the hydrothermal liquefaction industry. And now they're considering both of the incineration or HTO. In Brazil, the Petrobras actually is evaluating the HTO as well. And in the US, the DOE just recognized the HTL is one of the major pathways for renewable energy, just since in the report of the 2017. So there is the potential on this. So that's why this area of research gained popularity. Now, this gives you an overview or pathway of this whole work. I use this diagrams, actually, it's one of the ongoing projects for these diagrams, is how to convert the biofuels and the byproduct, and at the end to achieve the circular bioeconomy. So my lab is dubbed as the Environment Enhancing Energy Lab in our department, is to, in general, to convert this wet waste to transportation fuels. Right now, in particular, we focus on the sustainable aviation fuel. So we're starting with food waste, sewage sludge, or algal bloom, different feedstocks. Then through this hydrothermal liquefaction reactor, and then we can have different energy and bioproduct. In particular, the main product would be biofuel. And then again, the major product of the biofuel would be diesel and SAF. the co-product, like the heavy fractions, could be used as biobinders for the road pavement. And the wastewater parts, which containing primarily most of the nutrients in the original waste, can be extracted for the agricultural production. So a lot of the wastewater treatment in our group, actually on the PhD student just asked the questions, is working on this area for extract the nutrients and utilize the wastewater for agricultural use. So, and this we already have the some samples. So this in this displays, we collaborate with the array of the institutions and units both on campus and off campus. On campus, we particularly collaborate with the civil and environmental engineering, chemical engineering, and mechanical science engineering, and with off the campus with the DOE national labs and other universities. Now, give you a taste how this whole process. I'm going to skip all those lab scale reactor and lab scale analysis. So I'm starting with our pilot reactor. The reason for this, as far as I know, my lab probably is the only really operating labs at this pilot skills. So this is the inside of the view of this hydrothermal liquefaction pilot reactor. And this give you a grand view of the side. The reactor is the inside of this trailer. And this one is actually we are hauling to a site to treat the algal bloom. That's actually is a US Army project we did 2 years ago. And with these reactors, we are capable to process of 1.5 to 2 tons of bio waste per day. So with this kind of capacity, we are able to produce ample amounts of the crude oil and wastewater for downstream research. Downstream representing upgrade the crude oils and utilizing the wastewater for other purposes. Without this process capacities, we're going to have the materials or precursors to the downstream research. So again, another overview is by doing so, with any different feedstocks we are going to go put through the pilot reactors, we're going to do screening tests to optimize the operating conditions in terms of the temperatures, retention times. We use the severity factor. It's the severity factor to determine what kind of the conditions we can get the best oil yield and the quality. So we do more detailed lab work. Every time before we run the pilot reactors, we do an array of the lab test for determining the operating conditions. So again, this is a little bit detail. I'm going to just use this as an example. This is a major piece of work of converting from the food waste to the jet fuel. We're starting from the food waste, two type, one from a sort of a restaurant type or supermarket food waste. And the second type is from the local food processing plant. And here is the result. So through this reactor, and we got on the bottom of this diagram shows the bucket of the crude oils. And this side, you see the crude oils and the wastewater. And this gives you a sense that how we got these oils, which is this is the outlet, and then we can skim out of the crude oil. So again, with the ample amount of the crude oil, so that we can do some downstream research. In particular, right now we focus on our efforts to upgrade the bi-crude oil into sustainable aviation fuels. So this is the study we just not just published, it's actually almost 2 years ago. Now, this is give you the efficiencies. Those data are all from our pilot study. So this one gives you a taste how the carbon recovery right here and energy recoveries. So US DOE is particularly interested in the carbon recovery. The baseline right now, the carbon recovery for traditional waste treatment is anaerobic digestion. And we typically in literatures, we agreed upon the baseline or the ceiling is above the 30 to 35% of carbon recovery. And this approach, HTL, we already proved just through the biocrude oil product. And we can see that from the diagram on right, carbon recovery achieved 60 to close to 70%. And energy recovery is close to 75%. Okay? And those pilot runs it demonstrated the huge potentials in both in terms of carbon recovery and energy recovery. And this is only include the crude oil fraction. Now, as I mentioned, the wastewater fraction and the solid fraction still containing another about 30% of the nutrient and the carbon, which is the energy. That can still be, like a previous presentation by Dr. Pan, we can further recover the nutrient, carbon, energies from the remaining waste stream. So this just demonstrates just from the biocrude oil production part, we already achieved much higher recovery efficiencies compared to the existing technology. So this is some of the analysis. For example, this is the food processing plant waste. Through this, we did the TGA analysis, and we did find there are lots of impurities in it. Okay, so therefore we need to do some pre-treatment for this biocrude oil before we can get on to the final upgrading treatment. Upgrading primarily means deoxygenation, denitrogenation, and hydrogenation. And this is another example of this from a supermarket food waste. I'm not going to go through too much of details. Again, the TGA analysis showed that we have different fractions in terms of the light frame gasolines, kerosene, diesels, and all the way to the fuel oils and residues, which are the solid residue. So this then is we move to the next step. So my lab in the past 2 decades or so, we basically established the whole pathway from collecting the food waste, put it through into the hydrothermal liquefaction reactor, and do the separation, and then the pre-treatment, and at the end, we are doing the upgrading. So this is from the first, is the pre-treatment. Pre-treatment including remove water, remove ash, salt. Those are we consider it as a pre-treatment. So after the pre-treatment, then we can put through the upgrading reactors to get the fuels with the desirable properties that we want. This diagram shows just very much a conceptual things. So here with the NC ratios, OC ratios, and HC ratios. So this shows you different transportation fuels. For example, kerosene, which is the jet fuel, it's located right here with no oxygen, very, very little nitrogen if there is any, and very high hydrogen content. Okay, then how to achieve that? Our biocrude oils, even after the pre-treatment, still very much like scattered all over the places. So our job is to do deoxygenation, denitrogenation, and at the end is hydrogenation as well. So to achieve this, we basically, this is the simplified. So to achieve the jet fuel, for example, other fuels is the same thing, maybe it's a simpler or easier upgrading processes. So we go through this denitrogenation, hydrogenation, or the oxygenation and hydrogenation, or sometimes all those combined together. Then we can get, this is the fuel. This is our recent result. Actually, we have 3 different slightly approaches. I saw that the student who are the mainly lead in this research, Sabrina Summers, is in the audience. So in the audience. So those are the works. We are still ongoing, but this one is one of the examples we got. Through all this process, as I described, we had enough of the samples performed the FAA. FAA stands for Federal Aviation Administration. It's the major government's regulation and administration in US. So we follow the FAA SAF standard. We call the tier alpha and beta test. And through this alpha and beta test, we proved our product and our process. These are from the food waste. And this is original from the food waste. On the first 2 pair right here, that shows the carbon numbers of this upgraded fuel. And we can just distillate it. We have a fraction. Those are the colored ones. And pretty much fall into the conventional, commercial, typical jet fuel range, which is the green. So they are from the with the carbon numbers from between 7 and 16. Okay? Those are the carbon ranges. So from a micro point of view, this carbon structures fall into the jet fuel range. We also did the test, which are macro properties, which is all the jet fuels must go through those tests. And these are 8 properties, including the viscosities, densities, low heating values, flash points, and Chien-Fang numbers, freezing point, etc. Anyway, these are the 8. And from those tests, we also pretty much passed the tier alpha beta test following ASTM standard. ASTM is American Standard Technology Measurement. So all those dots are our fuels. And all this range is the FAA range. So I'm showing this is, I'm very happy with that. We are pretty much proved the pathway from the food waste all the way to the end of the jet fuels. We are currently working on optimizing the process, but also we need to enhance our capabilities for upgrading the oil. We now have a larger reactor to produce a biocrude, but we don't have a larger reactor to upgrade the biocrude into the drop-in fuels. So this is a in process. And so with that, just show you using these examples, it's all the way from the food waste to some really value added, in this case, the SAF, is all possible. And this could be through our analysis, and some work is going on based on the circularity. We are using kind of different method to evaluate this the economics aspect. We're using the circularity index approach. It's different from TEA, definitely different from LCA, but this is a more direct way to evaluate the circularity circularity for bioeconomic systems. So with that, that's the technical part. I just quickly introduced this. We do have a few lessons. It's through this process. HTL literally makes sense, and it has the environmental benefits. It's huge. If we count in the carbon credits and waste dumping fees, etc. But there are lots of technical challenges. It's high temperature, high pressure, and there is no such industry yet. Well, everything is at the infant stage. And economic challenges also, as long as the fossil fuels is cheap, we estimated right now, as long as it's more than $100 per barrel, this is hard to be competitive with this. But once it's beyond $100 per barrel, this could be competitive. So we are still learning, more lessons to be learned. So with that, I want to acknowledge the graduate students, the researchers in my group, and also the funding agencies through this many years of the research. Currently, we are doing two projects for DOE and one project for USDA. We just finished the project with the US Army. With that, thank you for attention, and I will enjoy your questions.
So there's one question online that we have time for, Yuanhui, from the Taiwan audience. Food waste consists of various components, and when collecting food waste, its composition may vary due to seasonal changes or different sources. This variation can affect the final product in yield. How do you address this issue?
And it's a very complicated question. It's a multi-million-dollar question. Indeed, treating the food waste is complicated first, from different sources with the different biochemical compositions. So that's one of the research we are doing now, is try to develop a comprehensive modeling. There are a couple of models already floating in the academia or literature. But we try to improve the model from both chemical reaction point of view, based on Arrhenius equations, and also from the mass and heat transfer process point of view. So if we understand well this process, we hope, once we know the type of food waste putting it through the system, then we can adjust the processes in terms of the HTO conditions, temperatures, retention times, or solid liquid ratios, or maybe sometimes with a different solvent or even catalyst. So right now, I cannot answer the question fully. We only deal one waste at a time, and sometimes we do mix them together. Right now, we are mixing the food waste with the algal and with the sewage sludge. So we try to figure out some general principles or reaction pathways built into our models. So later on, we can have a better process control. Very good question, very difficult. I have no exact answer, but we are working on it.
Okay, so thank you. And we are a little bit running behind. So let's go ahead and move to the third talk. Can you unshare your screen, please?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much for that Zhang's speech. And let's move to the third speaker. So the third speaker is Dr. Dinh from our department, our youngest and latest young faculty. And let me.
Okay, we can see the screen now.
Okay, so good evening in the US and good morning in Taiwan. And I'm Chien-Fang, an assistant professor in the Department of Biometronics Engineering. And today I'm going to talk to you about what we have done recently and how the laser can unlock the potential of the biomass. So to start with, let me introduce our group. we have 1 PhD students and 10 master students and 5 undergraduate students. And recently, our group is divided into 3 research areas. One is industrial application, and the second research area is biosensing, and we are focusing on agricultural innovation today. And we have published 12 papers. And so let's take a look first. This topic, I think, is most interesting topic. We have done it before. So this is called the laser-induced seed germination. And we put the seeds and the grains at the bottom and on the stage of the laser system. And we scan it, and we want to stimulate the germination rate. So that, as you can see, we have tried the rice grains, black beans, mung bean, and the soybeans. So on the right-hand side, can I use the pointer? Okay, so as you can see from this video, point here. Okay, so the result shows that the mung beans has the greatest response to the laser light, and we can increase the germination rate by up to 20%. This is, I think, is good news to the farmer, and to increase the crop yields and to reduce the waste. And next topic, we have done it before, is laser marking on the poultry carcasses. And we want to stimulate, make a simulation for the poultry slaughter line. As you can see, we have built laser on the fly marking system in our lab, and we want to mark a logo pattern on a chicken neck. So this is the real-world marking process, and we use a camera-based system to capture every single chicken neck to make sure that we have marked correctly. And this is actual speed of the video. If we slow down the video, as you can see here. Okay, so laser light is coming on here, so we can mark the logo pattern on the chicken neck. This goal is we want to achieve that the traceability for the food's safety. So we want to make unique information on every single chicken. Okay, due to the time limitation, so I will skip the detail of it. So today I'm going to talk to you about unlocking the potential of the biomass with lasers, from sustainable carbon sources to high performance material. So we are not just playing with laser, we want to make the world a better place. So I think our research aligned with the UN's SDGs. For example, SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, and the SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, and SDG 13, taking action on climate change. So we want to use the laser to treat the biomass. So the biomass can be the food waste, like just Professor Zhang has mentioned it before. And we put the biomass into the laser system, and we can turn the biomass into high value material, for example, graphene, so that we can make electronics device. For example, sensor, we can make sensors. But as you can see, there are so many e-waste recently. So this is reports in 2024. So as you can see from the line charts, here is the evaluation in 2022. So we hit a record around 62 million tons of e-waste. This number is jumping up to 82% in 2010, and it is going to skyrocket to another 32% by 2030. So this, which means that we need to deal with this e-waste issue in the future. So as you can see from here, so the e-waste, I think is less than a quarter, 22.3%. This amount of e-waste is formally collected and recycled in a proper way. So in 2022, we have generated 30 billion kilograms of metals, 70 billion kilograms of plastic, and 40 billion kilograms of other materials. So let's make a quick calculation. If we can reduce all of these metals and plastic, and so we can reduce up to 77.5%. But this is the best scenario. So in ideal world, we cannot do so many the process here, but it shows the potential. And how about in the US in 2022? I think the report said that only 17.4% of the e-waste is recycled. So 82.6% ending up with landfills. So it may cause some environmental risk, also the health problem issue to the human beings. So how can we balance the technological advancements with environmental sustainability? I think this is a question that we all need to consider. When we develop the technology, and we need to consider how the impact to the environmental and the condition. So yes, so I just read a recent publication from Professor Madhukana, also from the IC Institute for Sustainability, Energy and Environment at University of Illinois. And as you can see from this figure, there are two related concepts. One is circular economy, and the other one is bioeconomy. And circular economy is focusing on making the most of existing resources. So it's just like a recycling. However, bioeconomy is like recycling plus creating new material, new sustainable material from the biological resource. That's what we call the biomass. Okay. So it shows the potential here. So as you can see also from this figure, there are so many biomass resources that we can use. Wood waste from forestry operation, rice straw leftover from agriculture, or animal waste, food waste, industrial waste. So we need to do some collection, handling, and preparation before we before using this biomass. And so that we will use heat to break down the biomass. For example, pyrolysis, combustion, and gasification, so that we turn the biomass into useful products. And so we can, the products, for example, like solar cell, battery, and supercapacitors. And in our lab, the biomass, yes, we use the non-conventional way to treat the biomass, okay, by laser material processing. So we use the laser beam to break down, to treat the biomass into high performance material and try to build some electronics sensors. Okay, so as you may know, laser can do almost everything. You can do cleaning, cutting, engraving, drilling, and things like that. And we can use the laser in so many places and area. And how about the agriculture? I think, of course, we can use the laser on the agriculture. So here is the graph that shows that the sources, the biomass sources. So this biomass is not the typical chemical. Okay, it's non-chemical. This stuff is like nature resources. So we can choose cork, woods, leaf, and even regular paper. So it all contains the cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, which is the key to the process. So if we, when we prepare all this biomass material, then we can do the laser. Okay, and we can do the laser modification. So try to use the laser to turn the biomass material into graphene. So what is the advantage? It has lower environmental impact, biodegradable, biocompatible, and even cheap. Okay, so why leaf? Why we choose leaf? I think it's all about the flexibility. Okay, the flexibility is quite important for our wearable sensor. So we have done I think 3 or more leaves, and try to use the laser beam. This is on the left corner. Here is the same Namomon campefra tree. Okay, this is the name of the leaf. And we have successfully done the graphene on the surface of the leaf. And as you can see, this is what we got the lowest resistance on it. So it's in a range to 30 to 50 ohm. And we also done the Indian rubber tree. Okay, so as you can see on the right-hand side here, we can also successfully produce the graphene on the surface of the leaf. And we also do some other plants. So this is what we need to be able to get the flexible, biodegradable, and wearable material from the biomass. And when we use a new technology, we need to know how the power is consumed and what the impact, what the environmental impact is. So we use the precision of power meter to measure the electricity when we are doing the laser material processing. So this is just an example. So if we use a 30 watts of the laser system and running 1 hour operation, so we can get 1.2 times 10 to the power of -3 kilowatts hour. So this is for 1 hour. And if we run the system 24 hours, so it's only used to 0.88 times 10 to the power of -2 kilowatts hour of electricity. So in Taiwan, in the I think in the WHO standard. So here is the electricity carbon emission factor. So we calculate it. So the system is only only emits 0.012 kilogram carbon dioxide. So which means that the laser system is effective and energy efficient. So let's jump to some leaf-based sensors. So we have a collaboration with Professor Li in Tsinghua University in Taiwan, and we use the leaf as the electrode and try to make some sensors. As you can see from the left-hand side here, we use the leaf garlands. Okay, and do some spatial decoration on it to make it conductive, so that we can produce cardiography electrodes and flexible sensor. And yeah, this is an ECG sensor, which is can be monitored the human heartbeats. Okay, so as you can see from the results, our initial results shows that we can measure the P wave, Q wave, R, T, and S wave, which means that the sensor is successfully done. And also we attach because the flexibility of the leaf-based sensor, so we can attach the sensor on someone's knee and someone's finger. So if we when we are doing the workouts, so if we bend our knees or straighten our knees, we can get the signal changing here. And this one is also an example for the finger bending. So we monitor the signal when we are do some sports or other activity. So this leaf-based sensor have biodegradable and biocompatible, and we can use this sensor for health monitoring and disease diagnosis. Okay, so let's so we are just scratching the surface and the issue on the biomass issue, and we commit to explore more application of the laser in biomass. And we will do some life cycle assessments to make sure that this is a sustainable process. And I think it's one challenge that's when we are facing the large scale agricultural waste. So we need to have some technique to deal with this processing and mechanism. So, okay, so before I wrap up, I want to thank every member in our lab and also thank the National Science and Technology Council, Ministry of Education, Ministry for Agriculture, and our collaboration partner in Taiwan Instrument Research Institute. Okay, so this is my presentation. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you for Dr. Ding's presentation. So since this is our local speaker, so any question from the online audience?
I have a question about the, if you develop a sensor out of the leaf that can be used for an application, what is the lifetime of the sensor? How long does it, do you know how long it lasts, and does it depend on the application?
Thanks for Professor Rio's questions. And I think this issue is very important for when we are doing the sensors. So as we create the leaf-based sensor is biodegradable, so the lifetime is not very long. So we are still under the experiments. So if when we are use this kind of sensor, I think it lasts only 7 days. So every approximately 1 week. So after 1 week, we need to do some calibration of the electrical signal. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, so thank you very much. And let's move on to the fourth speaker. We're ready to share. So the fourth speaker is widely recognized for his research in biomass and solid waste conversion, including plastic waste pyrolysis and gasification for the product of chemicals, materials, fuel, and energy. And his work extends to innovative wastewater treatment solution, airborne pathogen disinfection, microwave catalytic technologies, and food engineering advancement. Okay, so Dr. Ruan is also fellow of National Academy of Inventors class of 2023, a fellow of ASABE and the IFT. Most recently, I just got the good news last night. Dr. Ruan was elected to the National Academy of Engineering class of 2025. So big hands to Dr. Ruan, and please start your presentation.
Well, thank you. Thank you for a nice introduction, and thank you, Professor Reed, for the introduction. I mean, for the invitation, and also for organizing this very timely webinar series on global perspectives on digital smart agriculture, focus on circular bioeconomy in agriculture today. So I'm going to focus mainly on wastewater, how to advance sustainable wastewater treatment and utilization in a circular economy. So I'll focus mainly on the integrated systems for municipal and wastewater treatment through utilization and the removal and destruction of PFAS and microplastic in landfill leachate, and also landfill management in general. So I'm going to talk about some of the technologies related to these topics. So we know there are all kinds of wastewater resources, right? I mean, even in Minnesota, we have only 8 wastewater treatment plant, but treats about 100 billion gallons of wastewater. Okay, so and in the U.S. we have over 20,000 municipal wastewater treatment plants, so serving over 200 million peoples. And this, for example, is the St. Paul wastewater treatment plant. It treats wastewater from the Twin City area where I live. So it treats about 200 million gallons a day. Okay, And right now, they still mainly using this traditional aerobic and anaerobic type of wastewater treatment plant, treatment process. So you have to pump a lot of air into this wastewater for the aerobic bacterial process. And that generate a lot of the CO2 into the air, wasted, right? And, polluting the air too. And also the AD process, it also generate a lot of methane gas too. And those are also goes into the air, all these are contributing to the greenhouse gas emission, right? And the sludge itself, right now, what they do is they separate out the sludge and then centrifuge them. And these dry sludge are then burned to generate electricity, because you need so much of electricity to pump air into the system. So that's why they want to try every effort to actually save some of the electrical energy. And in fact, this Twin City wastewater treatment plant is the top 10 electricity user in the whole state, okay, mainly because you need so much of the air being pumped into the wastewater. So as I mentioned, this this sludge, which right now it's actually using centrifuge to separate out this wastewater, and then they are burned to generate electricity. And these centrifuge, when you separate the water out of this centrifuge, out of this sludge, the volume is not very large. It's only about 1 million gallons a day. But these 1 million gallons, it contains over half of all of the nutrients, all of the incoming nutrients that day, okay? And right now, this very concentrated wastewater separate out from this sewage sludge, it's actually returned back to the beginning of the wastewater treatment plant, okay, to be treated again. That's why if we can actually use these centrates wastewater, okay, then we can save half of the wastewater treatment load, okay? That will save a lot of electricity, right? And also on the wastewater, on the incoming wastewater, there's a lot of floating scums, okay, floating on the wastewater. And these floating scums, it actually contain over 50% of the oils, okay? So this oil, of course, is heavily used with a lot of free fatty acid, but they are floating on this wastewater. And right now they have to, collect it, and they have to send to the landfill site to be landfilled, mainly because when you add these kind of scum onto the sludge to be burned, actually gum up the sludge and make it so difficult to handle. So that's why they have to ship out this scum to the landfill site rather than burn it. And, so this is again a high, it has high energy content because there's so much oil in this scum, right? So our idea is actually to try to utilize every component of these nutrients, of these resources, and turn them into valuable product. So we're using this new process that we developed to convert these scum into biodiesel, and then those centrate I mentioned, that has a very, very high nutrient concentration in there. We convert them, we use them to grow algae, for example, and then the remaining, sludge can be burned, can be pyrolyzed, or can be gasified, to generate electricities, biochars, and so on. So these, for example, is the scum to the biodiesel process. Now, this is quite unique again, because this scum, it contains heavily utilized waste oil. So after oil is used so many times, it contains a lot of free fatty acid in there. Okay, so traditional way of these kind of waste oil to biodiesel production is through two separate process. The first process is, acid catalysis. So you use free fatty acid to react with methanol using acid as catalyst, but then these process usually done at 60-degree temperature. So you will have a lot of, water in the product. Okay, and that's, water cannot really, this kind of equilibrium process, so under this low temperature, not a lot of water can be evaporated. So now these free fatty acids cannot be completely utilized. Okay, so we develop a new process. We adding glycerols into these first to convert these free fatty acid into glycerides, okay? And then the temperature is, much higher than 100 degrees. So then all the water here will be evaporated, okay? Now these glycerides can, be converted into biodiesel simply using these, alkaline catalyst. So then you can complete utilize all of these wastewater containing very high amount of free fatty acid into these biodiesel. So these, for example, is biodiesel produced, actually meets 100% of the ASTM standard for biodiesel application. So this is actually the systems, the pilot systems that we developed for these process to convert these kind of scums into the biodiesel. And now I mentioned the century itself separate out, those wastewater separate out from sludge, okay? So the sludge, as you can see here, these century contain very large amount of COD, over 2,000 ppm, and then, these, a lot of these nitrate, and a lot of ammonias and so on, and phosphorus too. So these nutrients, these nutrient profile are almost perfect for the algae production. Okay, so we develop this on-site, demonstration system right at the wastewater treatment plant using this kind of greenhouse type of these algae cultivation systems to utilize those central wastewater. Again, I mentioned the central wastewater is only 1 million gallons a day, right? But, it contains so much nutrients and it's perfect for algae production. So this is the systems you can actually use to grow these algae from these central wastewater. And because the nutrient profile is so perfect, you can actually convert all of the nutrient CODs reductions in about, less than 2 days, about 95% reductions, and then phosphorus and nitrogens, almost 70 to 90% are gone in 2 days. And these algae harvested, of course, you can't use it for feed or anything like that because this is from municipal wastewater. But, you can convert them into, biofuels. And in this case, as you can see, we compare the algae bio-oil to the wood bio-oil, and you can see that the heating value, it's much higher than these from traditional cellulosic biomass, those bio-oil, okay? But the key is, the pH here is very good. It's over 7, pH, okay? Not really, very, very low pH in a traditional cellulosic biomass, bio-oil produced from cellulose biomass, okay? And so again, these bio-oils can be 100% mixed with gasoline, as a fuel. So you can, use it for kind of just engine fuels. Now, for the animal wastewater is a different story. For example, hog manure, which we also have a lot more even than human wastewater. Okay, and you can see that normally it's treated through anaerobic digestion first. Okay, so this is before anaerobic digestion, and this is after anaerobic digestion. Still a lot of COD remaining, and if you look at ammonia concentration before, it's about, less than 3,000, but then after that, it's over 3,000. Why? Because there's a lot of protein residues in these animal wastewater, in the hog manures, okay? And after the digestions, after breakdown, you produce a lot more ammonia there. And these ammonia actually inhibit the methanogens from the methane production. Okay, so we have to develop a kind of integrated process. We have to pre-treat these to try to remove some of the, ammonias and then absorb with acids to produce ammonium sulfide, for example, as a fertilizer. And then after these kind of inhibitors been removed, then, you can produce a lot more methane. And then after that, as I mentioned, you still have a lot of nutrients in the wastewater after this AD, okay? So then we can use biochar, to condition this wastewater, and then the wastewater can be used for algae production. And then we can further condition the wastewater after the AD, after the algae production, okay? After algae is harvested, then we can use that remaining wastewater for the hydroponic plants production. for example. So that way, and then, eventually you can still using these kind of biochar to further condition the waters, further filter, absorb the, nutrients in the remaining waters so that you can, the water can then be discharged or reused. So these are the animal manures coming in, and then we go through these kind of intermittent kind of, vacuum treatment to remove the excess ammonia to, to produce ammonia nitrate, for example, or ammonia sulfide, and then going through ADs first, and then going through the algae production. But before that, again, you can see without this kind of pretreatment, the methane yield is much, much lower as compared to with the pretreatment. Okay, with this kind of intermittent removal of the inhibitors, the methane yield increase dramatically. Okay, so this is basically after that is done, then we can use biochar to condition this water before the algae cultivation. We remove some kind of suspended particles, remove some of the colors and so on. So that will actually help the algae cultivation. And these biochar can be produced from all kind of biomass using the pyrolysis technique that I will mention later. So, and then after that, again, we can use algae to cultivate on these AD wastewater. And algae has a lot of advantages. You can actually, if there's still some of the ammonia in there, that's okay. And also, if you have heavy metals, we often add in different kind of heavy metals, coppers and, zinc and so on into the feed. So you have a lot of heavy metals in different kind of animal wastewater, including hog manures. Okay, so then those heavy metals can also be absorbed by these algae. Okay, so and then if you don't have those, then you can actually use the if you don't have those concerns, you can use these algae as a feed also, right? Rather than as biofuel. But of course, you can use these algae as biofuel feedstock, as I mentioned earlier, right? And then those heavy metals and so on can be concentrated in the char too. Okay, and so this is the kind of AD wastewater after conditioning for the algae production. So, and after that, again, you can further, condition these kind of wastewater after the algae cultivation. Okay, and then that wastewater still contain nutrients, good for these hydroponic plants production. So it grow all kind of vegetables in these hydroponic systems. And so these are different kind of vegetables, and we work with local industries on some of those indoor hydroponic aquaponic systems for the vegetables and fish productions and so on. Now, after this vegetable fish, processing, there's a lot of waste, and there's a lot of other food waste too, right? And then you can use those, to grow this black soldier fly larva, for example. And the conversion rate is pretty high. You talk about 2 pounds to 1 pound of these kind of black soldier fly larva production rate. So it's quite efficient in utilizing all these kind of waste or grow worms and so on. And then remaining, for example, if needed, you can use these so-called high temperature solid waste composting systems. So you can simply by pumping the air, by providing necessary the air to control the temperature so that you can quickly convert these kind of materials into compost and inactivate some of the bacteria and viruses at the same time, because you can control the temperature to very high, close 80, 90 degrees centigrade, for example. And I mentioned earlier on the sludge itself, right, from the wastewater. So those sludge, right now, they simply burn. But when you burn the sludge, you still generate particulates and so on. So we're going through this kind of gasification process, okay? So we develop microwave systems that we can gasify these kind of sludge, and then the syngas can be used to generate electricity, for example. So in fact, we actually did a project for Xcel Energy, which is our local utility companies, supplying all kind of electrical energies. So we actually converting all kind of municipal solid waste and other kind of sludges and so on into these syngas. They can be used for electricity generation. But we can also use in these using these kind of syngas. So these are syngas productions generations. We can use also using a fermentation approach to utilize these kind of syngas too. So these are some of the syngas fermentation systems. We converting all these COs and hydrogens, and then we grow different bacteria to produce these acetic acids and other chemicals and so on. So now I want to touch a little bit on the PFAS and micro and nanoplastic issues. Okay, so you all seeing these kind of pictures, everywhere, right? So you have a lot of waste plastic floating on the ocean, for example, and these, plastics and other kind of PFAS containing materials, right? On the ground, everywhere. So these contain, these, has been a very serious issues because PFAS already has been proven to cause all kind of health concerns. Okay, and microplastic, nanoplastic also, they are already in, human blood. Okay, not just in a fish, not just in the environment. Okay. So because, we develop these kind of systems to try to convert all these kind of waste plastics into fuels, into chemicals, and into materials and so on. I'm not going to touch much details, but just talk about some of the systems that these kind of stationary systems, we convert these kind of feedstock in these microwave reactors, and inside here, they are mixed with different kind of microabsorbents and so on. So these are the micro generators. So these materials coming in here, they can be heated up by the microwave or by the microwave absorbent, microwave susceptors inside here, because not all of the materials can absorb microwave very efficiently. So this way they are heat up here, they are heat up while mixing, so they can be heat up very quickly and very uniformly to produce these kind of bio-oils, biochar, or syngas. So basically, when you heat up, you convert them into volatiles and coming out through this catalytic reforming before the condensation to produce the oils. And the char goes down here. It can be gasified if needed, for example, or simply coming out as a biochar for different kind of filtration absorption purpose. So we develop like mobile systems, so you can go to the field to convert all kind of waste on site, and then bring back just bio oils, for example, and then using the syngas itself to power the system. So you here actually, you don't see it, but we have the syngas electricity generation systems, so you can power the system by itself. So this is a little bit different. This is a downdraft system. So raw materials come down from top and then heat up by the microwave and mixing with the microabsorbents inside this reactor here. So the magnetron are on the side here, okay? So they are again heat up directly by the microwave and by the microabsorbent. So they can be heat up very, very fast. And they can also be heat up very uniformly because of mixings and so on inside. Okay, and then the volatiles coming down from the bottom, going through catalytic reactions before the condensations. So this is actually a technology license to a company called Resynergy. Again, they develop these 5 times per day type of system right now for waste plastic utilizations for the fuels and chemicals production. I'm not going to go into detail, but this kind of system could potentially be put on a boat, for example, go to the ocean to collect all kind of plastic materials floating on the ocean, and then bring back just the the liquid fuel and the materials and so on. So now in the landfill, there's a lot of issues with the PFAS, micro and nanoplastic also, okay? So the landfill, and landfill, there's other issues too. A lot of smaller and medium landfill site, they have a lot of issues because they don't collect all the landfill gas. So landfill gas, methane gas, for example, still, and CO2 just goes through air, okay, wasted, not really utilized. And then these organic waste, they continue to break down under the sun, under the rain, and so on. So there's a lot of leachates going into here. In this case, it's collected here. Okay, so these leachates contain a lot of these, PFAS coming out of these, and then micro nanoplastic and so on here. And then these, of course, because of its organic waste, there are also a lot of, CODs, a lot of phosphorus, nitrogens and so on, right? So there's a lot of issues. And then landfill site also have these long-term sustainability issue because, very soon these landfill will probably be, out of space for, adding more of the landfill waste. So all these need to be considered, okay, need to be dealt with, okay? So we use, for example, in a leachate, okay, we use, because as mentioned, this leachate contains phosphorus, contains organic COD, nitrogens, and contains these, PFAS and micro nanoplastic and so on. So we use these algae also, we grow algae to try to remove them. And you can see here, algae can grow quite well, okay? And also the CODs, the ammonias, nitrate, and so on can actually continue to come down. And then some of the different component, different type of algae can be incorporated into protein or oils inside these algae. And then because PFAS is very complicated, they are positive charge or negative charge. So when we harvest the algae, we also using like electric field type of method to harvest them. So, the both positive and negative charged PFAS can be removed, at the same time also. And, so after the algae harvesting, we can also use in the biochar to further absorb, to further remove remaining PFAS in these leachate or wastewater, okay? So these are, for example, after 16 days, and then you can see that after this electric field harvesting, you can see the kind of different type of PFAS reduction. And then, and after that, because PFAS is actually so-called forever chemicals, okay? So even you harvest them, even you concentrate them, they will not break down easily, okay? So you have to break them somehow. So what we did is we pyrize them, we add in these, calcium oxide, calcium hydroxide, and so on, so that we can convert this organic fluorine into inorganic fluorine, like calcium fluoride, for example. So that way now, these forever chemical can be dealt with. It will not have any organic fluorine anymore. Okay, so we, and these we also can use to treat these landfill organic waste. Okay, so that way we can reduce the volume of the landfill, waste, and actually deal with these PFAS and micro nanoplastic from the source, okay? Because, we prevent it from breaking down into these PFAS and micro nanoplastic and going into leachate, which we have to remove, right? If we can actually convert, these using pyrize technique, and pyrize technique is actually best for that kind of, like plastic waste and so on, because if you simply just burn it, you produce these dioxins and so on. So that's heavily toxic, right? But then using pyrize, because it doesn't contain any, it doesn't have much oxygen there, and you don't have a lot of the dust, to catalyze these for the dioxin production. So you can actually avoid that kind of toxic gas production. But then you can reduce the volume so that you can actually improve the life of the landfill site, right? So again, a combination of these kind of approach, then like this is after that, we actually pyrize these biomass that contains PFAS and so on. So then you can see, bio oil, biochar, and biogas yield, and then we analyze the PFAS in different samples. In oil sample, for example, again, minimum of these, PFOA, for example, I just gave examples, remaining, over 99%, are gone. And then in the biochar, pretty much non-detectable anymore, those PFAS, okay. In the raw material, of course, you have a lot, but then, there's not much at all in the biochar solid samples. And in the gas samples, again, number of those organic fluorine is still there, okay. So you can actually see some, pretty much minimum of those kind of organic fluorine still there, okay? So, and these kind of log, scale, you can actually see, major reductions in all of these unwanted gas component there. Okay, so that's basically, you know, using this kind of integrated approach, you can actually remove the nutrients in these leachate, and also in, you know, reduce the volume, and then avoid the PFAS and nano and microplastics from the source. So we got a lot of support from, you know, USDA, DOE, and a number of agencies. I just want to add acknowledgement here, and a lot of collaborators too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ruan. And one of the questions from the team is, can you from the Taiwan team is, can you share ideas on, I mean, it seems like you show commercialization. So some of these are must have addressed the cost challenges. Can you share something about how to tackle the cost challenge of bio-oil production?
Well, from the first of all, that's a good question. So that bio-oil, it's always an issue, because nobody really, you know, can use that directly. Bio-oil from biomass, from cellulose biomass, because the, you know, complicated lignin, you know, presence there. So the composition is, you know, very complex. Okay, each different fraction is very, very small amount. So even fractionations may be not economical, but depends on the type of feedstock. Okay, like I gave some example, like algae. Okay, algae doesn't contain much of the lignin. Okay, and then also the plastic. Okay, plastic itself is a perfect, you know, petrochemical already, right? Of course. So from those kind of feedstock, you know, you can actually make these product very valuable, and that's why there's commercialization on those type of the materials, on those type of applications. But then for the, you know, I also mentioned the landfill issues, and for those, the main thing is the regulation. Like in our state, we are required now to actually test, to actually remove all the PFAS, okay, in the drinking water. And that's, you know, a lot of costs involved. So that also means that these landfill leachate, okay, the leachate itself, you cannot use it for that application now. So that need to be treated also. You have to remove those PFAS, those micro nanoplastic in those wastewater also. So now that kind of, you know, treatment, pretty much no other ways. Like that's the reason I mentioned the PFAS is actually forever chemicals. You know, you cannot really destruct it easily. Okay, you may be able to contain it by the biochar, you know, absorptions and so on. But then after that, it's still there. It still cannot be broken down. So that you combine with pyrolysis to further mineralize all these organic fluorines and so on. So these combining with these kind of waste treatment, you know, requirements, you know, then you certainly will improve your economic pictures, because you're dealing with, you're collecting these kind of treatment fees there, right? And at the same time, you also produce very valuable, you know, products, right? And coming back to the biomass part. So biomass part, again, also depends on application. Like in California, for example, there's a lot of fires. Okay, so you know, in the fires in the neighborhood, so burning down all kind of, you know, housings and so on. So that make it hazardous now, because of the climate change. Sometimes a lot of rain, so you have a lot of grass growing, but then, you know, it changes to very, very dry, you know, climate for quite some time. So all these biomass available. If you don't actually harvest it, don't actually convert it to biochar or others, and leave it there, then it causes all these fires. Okay,
Right.
so now they're talking about using these kind of systems as a fire prevention engine. So goes to these areas, just simply collecting and converting them into biochar, returning to the soil, for example, and then, you know, just for the fire prevention. And because the cost may be high, but compared to those burning down our houses, it's minimum. It's not really even, you know, so not compatible, right? So you can simply just like a fire engine go collect it, converting all these kind of gas you harvest, you convert it right there. So it depends on application. It could still be economical in a number of commercial applications. So
Okay, so we're going to cut it off there. Thank you so much for your presentation. To everyone, just an announcement that the next topic will be around controlled environment agriculture. Thank all of you for joining us for these insightful discussions on circular bioeconomy and its role in shaping the future of digital and smart agriculture. These conversations show the importance of innovation, collaboration to achieve sustainability and regenerative systems that minimize waste and maximize resource efficiency. All of you engaging on this reinforces the power of collective efforts like this in driving meaningful change. Let's continue to build on these ideas and build new partnerships and advance solutions that support a more resilient circular economy. We look forward to seeing all of you in the future and seeing how these discussions translate into real world impact. Thank you so much.